Have you ever noticed that even when your grammar is perfect, you still sound like a foreigner? You've passed the B2 exams. You know the irregular verbs. But when you speak, there's a delay. You're building sentences like a Lego set, piece by piece, while native speakers are playing a completely different game. Today, we're going to expose the missing link. The reason you feel exhausted after a 10-minute conversation is that you're thinking in words, and natives don't. Anastasiia is here to show us how to steal the native thinking pattern called chunking. Wait, before we dive into the psychology of fluency, go to the description and download the free study guide PDF. It contains the top 50 living chunks we use in this episode and a 15-minute daily system to rewire your brain. Stop translating, start thinking. Let's get into the debate. Anastasiia, I want to start today with a bit of a provocation, something that might upset some traditional teachers. I honestly believe the way we are taught English in school, the academic way, is actually damaging our ability to speak fluently once we reach the B2 level. We spend years obsessed with subject plus verb plus object and complex grammar formulas, and then we wonder why, in a real conversation, a student takes 5 or 10 seconds of silence just to produce a simple 3-word sentence. It feels like our education system builds a Ferrari engine but forgets to give us the wheels.
Oh, Leo, you're hitting a very sensitive nerve there. It's not just damaging, I would go as far as to say it's paralyzing. Think about the psychological weight of that. In school, you're taught that English is a logical puzzle, a mathematical equation. You have this massive bag of 5,000 words and a giant book of 200 rules. So when you're standing in front of a native speaker, your brain goes into processing mode. You have to find the right noun, conjugate the verb, choose the correct preposition, check if it's in or on. And by the time your brain has finished building that perfect sentence, the conversation has moved on. The group is already talking about something else. You're left standing there with a perfect sentence that nobody wants to hear anymore.
Exactly. It's exhausting. It's like trying to play a beautiful piano concerto by thinking about every single muscle movement in your pinky finger. You simply cannot make music that way. It's too much data for the conscious mind to handle at once. But this leads us to the big question. If individual words are not the real unit of language, if the bricks are the problem, then what is the real building block of fluency?
The unit is the chunk. And this is where the revolution starts for a B2 learner. A chunk is a pre-packaged, pre-assembled block of language. Usually, it's 2 to 6 words that your brain treats as a single unit, a single sound. Think about the phrase, "How's it going?" When a native speaker says that, they aren't performing grammar, they aren't thinking how plus is plus it plus going. To them, it's not 4 words, it's one single vibration. How's it going? Their brain spends 0 energy on that sentence. It's a ready-to-use file they just double-click in their mind.
Okay, I get that. But I can hear our listeners thinking, sure, Leo, that's just a greeting. Everyone knows how's it going or nice to meet you. My problem, and the problem I see in professional B2 speakers, is when we have to explain something complex, like a project delay at work or a nuanced opinion about a movie. In those moments, we feel the need to be precise, so we revert back to that slow word-by-word construction. We feel that if we don't build it from scratch, it won't be accurate.
That is the ultimate trap. You think precision comes from choosing individual words, but real precision actually comes from collocations and fixed phrases. Let's look at a professional example. If you say, "I am going to make a decision," that is a chunk. A native speaker never thinks about the grammar there. But a B2 student often stops and thinks, wait, do I do a decision? Do I take a decision? Or do I make a decision? In that half second of doubt, the flow is murdered. B2 learners stay stuck in that intermediate valley because they are trying to be too creative with every single word. Here's the secret, Leo. Natives are actually very uncreative. We don't invent new sentences every time we speak. We just reuse the same 500 or 1,000 chunks over and over again, like we're playing with giant Lego blocks.
Wait, let me stop you there. That sounds almost disappointing. You're saying that the secret to sounding like a genius in English is actually being lazy and just using pre-made blocks instead of building original artistic sentences?
It's not disappointing. It's the most liberating thing you will ever hear. When I finally understood this during my own journey to C1, my anxiety evaporated. I stopped trying to construct English from the ground up and started deploying it. But this is where the real debate happens. Traditional teachers will tell you that if you want to be more accurate, you need more grammar books. I'm telling you that if you want to be more accurate, you need more chunks. Why? Because a chunk already has the perfect grammar baked inside of it. If you learn the block "I've been meaning to," you never have to think about the present perfect continuous rules ever again. You don't have to remember have plus been plus verbing. You just grab the block "I've been meaning to" and attach it to an action. It's literally a fluency hack.
I see the power in that. It shifts the burden from the grammar center of the brain to the memory center, which is much faster. But here's the practical struggle for a B2 student. When they listen to a podcast or watch a movie, everything still looks like a blur of individual words. They see the bricks, but they don't see the walls. How do we actually start training our eyes and ears to identify these chunks in the wild? It feels like we need a new set of glasses.
You hit the nail on the head. You have to change your listening lens. Most students listen for the what, the meaning of the story. To break the plateau, you have to start listening for the how, the patterns. But honestly, Leo, explaining how to do that requires a complete shift in how you consume content. We need to talk about input mining, and I think we should dive deep into that right after the break, because it's a total game changer for your daily routine.
I couldn't agree more. If you're listening to this and you feel like you've been trying to build a skyscraper with tiny individual bricks, stay with us. After the break, we're going to give you the heavy machinery to start building with blocks. Are you starting to see the blocks yet? This shift from words to chunks is the difference between speaking English and being an English speaker. If you want to see exactly what these chunks look like on paper, grab the free study guide PDF in the description. I've listed the academic chunks for work and the social chunks for friends, so you don't have to guess. Download it now and follow along for the second half, where we talk about native stalking your way to fluency. We're back. Now, Anastasiia, before the break, you dropped a bombshell. You said that most of us are listening to English the wrong way. We watch Netflix, we listen to podcasts, we consume hours of content, but we still feel like we aren't stealing the language. We're just watching it pass by. You said we need to change our listening lens. What exactly are we doing wrong?
The mistake is that you are listening for content, but you should be listening for construction. Most people watch a movie because they want to understand the plot, who killed who or who fell in love. But a C1 aspirant, someone who is serious about breaking the plateau, watches a movie to mine for chunks. I call this native stalking. It's a complete shift in focus. You find a character or a speaker you actually love, someone who sounds like the version of yourself you want to be in English, and you almost ignore the story. You stop caring about the plot and start obsessing over the connectors, the fillers, and the rhythms.
Native stalking. I love the name. It sounds intense. But let's make it practical for the person listening at home or in their car. Let's say I'm watching a business interview or a professional podcast on YouTube. My listening lens is on. What am I actually looking for? Give me the gold I should be mining.
You're looking for what I call the glue. These are phrases like, "That's a fair point," or "Having said that," or "It's worth noting that." You see, Leo, these aren't just collections of words. They are functional blocks. Think about the magic of the phrase. It's worth noting that when you use that, you've just bought yourself 2 full seconds of thinking time. While your mouth is saying those 5 words, which you don't have to think about because they are a chunk, your brain is in the background frantically preparing your next real point.
That is a total game changer. You're literally using language to buy time to speak more language. I've noticed that B2 speakers, when they need to think, they go, how do you say? And that kills the vibe of the conversation. It makes them sound like they're struggling. But a native speaker uses a chunk like, that's an interesting way of looking at it. And they sound like a philosopher while their brain is actually just catching up.
Exactly. It's a trick. Natives use chunks to think. If you try to think in silence, you sound like a student. If you think while using a filler chunk, you sound like an expert. But here's the second part of the debate, Leo. I know what you're going to ask. Won't I sound like a movie character?
You read my mind. That's my big concern. If I mine chunks from a Marvel movie or a legal drama like Suits, won't I sound fake? Won't I sound like I'm reading a script or trying too hard? People can sense when you're being inauthentic.
Not if you choose the right language muse. That's why I have a love-hate relationship with textbooks, Leo. Actually, mostly hate. Textbooks give you what I call dead chunks. Phrases like state-of-the-art or cutting-edge or it is raining cats and dogs. Nobody says that in a real coffee shop or a real Zoom meeting in 2026. If you use those, you sound like a 1990s CD-ROM. You need living chunks. You need to hear how a real native says, "I'm not gonna lie," or "to be honest with you," or "I was wondering if..." These are the phrases that make people think, wow, this person really gets the language.
I remember when I first discovered this. I started using the chunk, "if I were in your shoes." I didn't even understand the grammar of the second conditional perfectly yet. I couldn't have explained the rules to you, but I used that specific block of sound in a meeting, and suddenly my colleagues started treating me like an advanced speaker. It felt like a fluency hack. I was cheating, but it worked.
It's not cheating, it's efficiency. It's a shortcut to the C1 level. But I have to give a warning. You can't just collect chunks like they are stamps in a book. If you just write them in a notebook and never look at them again, you're wasting your time. This is where my 15-minute daily system comes in. It has to be a cycle.
Break that cycle down for us. 15 minutes. That's a small commitment, but I bet the consistency is the hard part.
It's very simple. 1. 5 minutes of mining. Watch a clip and find 3 chunks. Just 3. 2. 5 minutes of shadowing. Repeat those 3 chunks 10 times each. Don't just say the words, mimic the emotion. If the speaker sounds frustrated, you sound frustrated. Get the music right. 3. 5 minutes of deployment. This is the hard part. You must force yourself to use those 3 chunks in a real conversation or a mock conversation, like talking to your dog or your mirror, within 24 hours.
That's the use it or lose it rule. I always tell my students, your brain is a ruthless janitor. If you don't deploy a chunk today, your brain will see it as trash and delete it tonight to make room for more Netflix plot points or work emails. You have to prove to your brain that the chunk is a tool you need to survive.
Precisely. And please don't try to learn 20 chunks at a time. That's the beginner's trap. If you try to learn 20, you will use 0. If you master 5 living chunks a week, truly master them until they are automatic, that's 250 blocks of native-level English a year. Leo, a person with 250 high-level chunks, can handle almost any situation in the world. They will sound like a C1 speaker even if their grammar isn't 100% perfect.
That is so empowering. It means the B2 plateau isn't a wall made of stone that you have to break with your head. It's just that the bricks you've been using, individual words, are too small to build the next floor. If you start using bigger blocks, the skyscraper goes up much faster.
Exactly. The ceiling you're hitting right now is just the limit of the word-by-word system. Change the system, and you'll realize the ceiling was never there. You're ready to fly.
I think we should leave it there. That's a lot for our listeners to process. If you're feeling inspired, don't just move on to the next video. Start your 15-minute clock right now. Stop building houses with tiny bricks. It's time to use the blocks the pros use. Your mission for this week is simple. Download the free study guide PDF. Pick 3 chunks from the list and use them in a sentence today. Challenge of the day. Write a sentence in the comments using one of these 3 chunks. It's worth noting, having said that, or I've been meaning to. I will personally check your sentences and tell you if you're using them like a native. Don't forget to subscribe to English Lab. We're here to give you the missing links, not just more vocabulary. You're closer to C1 than you think. You just need to change how you think. I'll see you in the comments.